Good evening, this is Mr. Wintermelon, and in today's lesson we are going to learn the effect of antidiuretic hormone, or what we call ADH. So by the end of this lesson, you should be able to outline the role of antidiuretic hormone or ADH in osmoregulation. Now, if you do not understand what is osmoregulation, we are going to define it for you. So beside the role of excretion, kidney also serve as site of osmoregulations. That means it is an osmoregulator. And by looking at the name alone, regulation means to control. Osmo. I think we have learned something to do with osmo earlier, right? Osmosis. So what is it about water that kidney is controlling? So the function of kidney is also to regulate water and salt concentration, or water potential and salt concentration in the blood plasma to maintain a constant water potential. So this is a fancy way of saying kidney is responsible for regulating the water potential in blood plasma. And this is affected by our antidiuretic hormone. And just by the name itself, we can tell what is the function of the hormone. So if you ask me, the most important thing here is to remember what is the meaning of this hormone. Then, other than that, you can reason out rest of its function and what happens when you have less of this hormone. So anti itself, right, means against, it prevents. Diuretic itself means urine. So antidiuretic hormone, the name itself, it just suggests that the hormone is anti-urine. That means it prevents you from urinating. So just think about it. In what situation does your body want to prevent you from urinating? In situation whereby it wants you to hold water. That means, let's say you are thirsty and so on, you probably wouldn't be urinating. So when you are thirsty, you are going to produce a lot of ADH to prevent you from urinating and losing more water. So with this, you can actually reason out a lot of the scenario, but of course, you have to know how it takes place. Now, you might be thinking, why is it important to maintain a constant water potential in the blood? Maybe you can recall what happened when our red blood cell is placed in a solution of higher water potential or solution of lower water potential. There will be detrimental effect to the animal cell if the water potential in the tissue fluid or the blood plasma changes. Our cell might lose water or gain too much water, and they might burst or they might crenate. So having said all of this, ADH is produced by the hypothalamus and is stored in the pituitary gland. This part I would say is extra knowledge, but I will just go through for your additional info. So right here we have a diagram of a brain. You can see the hypothalamus in the middle, and the pituitary gland is connected somewhat below the hypothalamus. So you can go Google and read up more about hypothalamus as well as the other hormones it produces. So let's talk about the regulation of ADH, or when we produce more ADH. So we produce more ADH when there's a loss of water, and this is why. So let's say in a hot weather, or after we exercise, or in situation whereby we go long duration without drinking water, let's say for example, during Ramadan, the water potential inside our blood will decrease. So when there's a decrease in water potential, it will stimulate the osmoreceptor inside our hypothalamus. What is osmoregulator? So osmoregulator is like a sensor, sensitive cells inside our hypothalamus that sense the increase or decrease in water potential inside our blood plasma. In this case, there's a decrease. So when there's a decrease, it will trigger the hypothalamus to send a signal to our pituitary gland. It is through nerve impulse. What is nerve impulse? You'll learn it in future chapter. So when the signal is sent to our pituitary gland, when there is a decrease in water potential, what will happen is the pituitary gland will release more ADH. So ADH will affect the collecting duct inside our nephron, at least for your O-level syllabus, that is what it will affect. So our collecting duct will become more permeable to water. That means it will allow more water to be absorbed through the duct into the blood capillary. So reabsorption of water into the blood capillaries will increase. And because we are absorbing more water back into the blood, the amount of urine produced will be lesser. Now, what is not so important here is the receptor in hypothalamus as well as the nerve impulse to the pituitary gland. The effect of ADH on the collecting duct is important, so you should copy it down. The overall sequence, do not be worried, I have summarized them nicely in the following 2 slides. So for the first slide, we will reiterate the situation where we are dehydrated. Dehydrated meaning there's a lack of water. So if the question says that the situation is you are dehydrated, you think about it. When you are dehydrated, when you are lack of water, does your body want to keep the water inside your body or not? So if the body want to keep the water inside our body, do you think it will produce more urine or less urine? Less urine, right? So when there's less urine, we need to increase the hormone that is anti-urine. So the release of ADH is increased. And this is the sequence of event. So there's a decrease in water potential in blood plasma. And this will result in the increase in release of ADH. Because like I said, we need to keep the water inside our body. That's why we need to have lesser urine. Lesser urine means more ADH because it is anti-urine. And as a result, as you have learned, the effect of ADH is it will increase the permeability of cells in the wall of collecting duct. This will increase in water reabsorption. And because more water is reabsorbed back into our blood capillary, there will be a decrease in volume of urine. And our urine becomes more concentrated. So this is important. Copy this down. You might want to add reabsorption of water back into our blood capillary. Next, let us talk about situation when we are well hydrated. That means we have just drank a lot of water, drink a lot of soap, or eat some juicy fruits, or drink our bubble tea. So let's say we have a lot of water inside our body. Do you think you need to pee? I think you will want to pee if there's too much water inside your body, right? So we want to release the urine. So do you want to have less or more of the hormone that is anti-urine? You will want to have less of it, right? That's why we will decrease ADH. So what is happened is, when there's too much water inside our blood plasma, the water potential in our blood plasma increase. This will result in a decrease in release of ADH. And the permeability of our cell in the wall of collecting duct will decrease. Just remember, do not write cell wall because animal cell do not have cell wall. So if you want to just write decrease in permeability of the collecting duct, it is fine. This will result in decrease in water reabsorption back into our blood plasma. So as a result, more water will flow through the collecting duct and it will increase the volume of urine produced. So every time when I answer this kind of question, I will actually go from the bottom to the top. Basically, you need to do some planning if you don't want to memorize. So just think about it. For this case, we are well hydrated. We have too much water in our body, we need to urinate more. So if we want to have more urine, do we reabsorb back more water, or we don't absorb so much water? We reduce the amount of water that we absorb back, right? So that we can pass out those water. So we decrease in water reabsorption. So in order to have lesser water being reabsorbed, the wall of the collecting duct, the permeability must decrease, and what result in the decrease is the decrease in ADH. So you can also work from the bottom to the top, but of course when you are answering, you need to go from the top to the bottom. You just give yourself some time to reason this out, and this shouldn't be something that you need to memorize because this actually flows logically. Like when you are thirsty, you will want to keep water inside our body, so less urine. When let's say we are cold, we are not sweating as much, during cold day, do you want to run to the toilet a lot? Yes, you do. Why? Because you have lesser ADH being released. So lesser hormone that is anti the urine, you will want to run to the toilet. And this is all for the part on osmoregulation. I have this bonus slide for you. If you want to know how our collecting duct actually absorb more water, it is because there is more aquaporin being inserted into the membrane. Aquaporin, if you can remember, is the channel membranes that allow the water molecules to pass through. So ADH increase the permeability of the collecting duct by causing it to produce more aquaporin. So you might want to take note of word of the day, G protein. Feel free to Google what is G protein because you will learn it in A level.